Tough words there. Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez and editor-in-chief of The Hill, Bob Cusack, are here with us to break it all down. Leslie, I do want to talk to you a little bit about there's some news being reported right now by the Wall Street Journal saying that Mitt Romney in Ohio today will lend his support and endorse John Kasich. Do you know anything about this? I know that you've been in touch with some of Mitt Romney's former campaign people.
Sure. There's been a lot of conversation around the Mitt Romney folks about what can he do to really be the person to lead this anti-Trump effort. And very much they felt they were very successful in his speech. As much as Donald Trump may not have agreed, and he went toward the politics of personal destruction, they felt it started this conversation about what qualifications does he have? Does he have the temperament to be president? And now you see all the stories about Trump University, Trump Mortgage, all these Trump stakes. So it did take Donald Trump off his game, and they felt that was a bit successful. I think what you're seeing now is a very directed effort, put resources together to get behind more of a moderate candidate that certainly should win Ohio, but it slows the momentum to the best you can looking at the political map.
Bob, you hear all of his rivals, too, as well, kind of really getting angry here now at Donald Trump for his rallies. But when Mitt Romney before came out and spoke against Donald Trump, there was a backlash there. So how do you think this will play out in Ohio?
Well, certainly the anti-Trump faction, they're rooting for John Kasich, who has the only realistic shot to beat Trump in Ohio. So it'll be interesting if Romney is actually endorsing Kasich or if just in Ohio, because basically Rubio's endorsed Kasich in Ohio, or is this for the whole run? This is something that did not work on the first go-round with Mitt Romney, and a lot of people, Republicans, were disappointed, including Donald Trump in the campaign that he ran against Barack Obama. So I just don't know how much of an effect it's going to have, especially because Romney, he really did not do well in 2012. The race actually was not as close as I even thought it would be. So I think he is viewed as the establishment, and the anger is directed at Romney. So I don't think Romney's moving the needle here.
So Leslie, I have to ask you though, it looks like Donald Trump will clearly take Florida from what it looks like right now. Right. Marco Rubio really wanted that state. Trump and Kasich now very tight in Ohio. How do you think all this maneuvering is going to play out?
Well, I think it's one state at a time, right, when you're trying to figure this chess pieces on the board. I do think when you're talking about small percentages of points, we're talking about 1 or 2 points. If Governor Romney can deliver 1 or 2 points among moderates, which is really sad that we're talking about that, that's a victory. That massively slows the effort, because if Donald Trump wins both Ohio and Florida, winner take all, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, for any of the other candidates to slow the momentum before he gets to 1237. As you know, many are trying to get to either brokered convention, and Ted Cruz says he's not, but they want to slow the momentum so they're competitive and can try to earn that vote. Tomorrow could change all that. So Florida, you're exactly right. Extremely disappointing for Marco Rubio, not where he thought he'd have to be. It's not that he wanted to win, it's that he had to win.
Yes, he had to. Bob, Trump switched his schedule to campaign in Ohio over Florida at this point in time. Does this mean he feels Kasich is a real threat here now?
Yes, definitely. And I think it also shows his confidence about Florida. He's way up in Florida, and this race in Ohio is very close. Kasich is popular in Ohio, clearly more popular than Rubio is in his home state. So, as Leslie just mentioned, listen, this thing, for all intents and purposes, would be over if Ohio and Florida both go to Trump. Looks like Florida is going to go to Trump. So Ohio is the last stand. I think you could give a slight edge to Kasich because he is popular there and he has been hanging out in his home state for quite some time. But that's the reason why Trump's going there, because he, as he said a few weeks ago, is let's put an end to this thing. Let's finish this up. And he's looking to do that tomorrow.
And that's Leslie. So I know it's a chess piece. You got to look at one state at a time. But let's say Trump wins Florida, but he loses Ohio. Does he still have a clear path to the nomination?
He has a really good runway. There's a lot of lights on it, not a lot of incoming flight traffic. So yes, it looks very good. But it would just like he said, it would all but be over.
Right.
If he won both states. That's why the challenge. So there's still a lot of hard work for these other candidates. And all of this is in the convergence of this violence that's happening on the rallies. What kind of impact does it have? Now you're going to see it down to a two-man. Really more of a two-man race, but it depends where Kasich comes in. A lot of individuals like Governor Kasich. They always have. They felt he's a pragmatist, good experience, but he couldn't get any traction under the kind of this illumination of Donald Trump. Nobody could.
Well, that's Bob. Leslie just touched on a point that I want to talk to you a little bit about. What do you make of the violence at Trump's rallies? Do you think that they help or hurt his campaign? Because in some ways, you know, a lot of people in the media talking over the weekend that this was really going to hurt him, but we've said that over several instances. And in a lot of these cases, what we think is going to hurt him ends up helping him. How does this shake out?
I think it might help him in the primary because we've had, as we all know, a raucous Republican primary where the rules have been thrown out. The general election is something entirely different, and for Trump to say, listen, we're going to unite the party, those type of scenes that you're showing right now, I mean, that turns off independents, that turns off maybe some Democrats who are thinking about voting for Trump. So Trump he's looking really good for the nomination, but as far as defeating the likely Democratic nominee in Hillary Clinton, this is a problem for him without a doubt, and I think it's something that's not going to go away. And without a doubt, he has many obstacles to defeat Hillary Clinton. This is a big one.
I think there's a big disappointment, too, I will tell you, among many Republicans that both Senator Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio didn't announce. They did. They came out in a very profound way, so they didn't, you know, we have to tone down the rhetoric and amp it down.
But that's what they talked about over the weekend, was toning it down.
Toning it down, but in no way, when Ted Cruz stands there and says, you know, unless he shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue, you're pretty much, I'm in line. I mean, I don't really know how our conversation got to this state where that would even be part of the conversation. I mean, just the tone and the acceptance of violence in the public discourse, even if it's a flippant comment, I think that's fundamentally, I don't think you hear Governor Cusack say that. So I think we expect more, even now struggling to get the messaging right within the Republican Party.
Well, so if Donald Trump is nominated, you know, how do these clashes affect the general election in your viewpoint, especially when you have the two other rivals coming out and not really denouncing it?
Donald Trump underperforms among Hispanic voters. He's underperforming, we obviously statistically know, among African Americans. He's underperforming among women. He will continue to underperform in red states as you get to a general election. We're already starting to see some internal math on that. It gets much more competitive, which is why the Wall Street Journal has an over 40 hypothetical matchups with Hillary Clinton. He loses because you either depress the vote. The independent voters he's talking about, a lot of them are women. A lot of them are soft Democrats, soft Republicans. They really kind of vote based on personality. They could not get behind that kind of rhetoric.